Hi. Well, this is part three of our desensitizing and getting moving again series. So today I'm going to use a rolled up towel. I'll unroll it so you can see that this is a hand towel that I'm turning into a little roll. And we're going to use it down on our backs. What we are looking at to a large degree is the SI joint. And I can turn around. You can't really see a lot with black pants on, but these two bones that stick out, those are your PSIS bones, and they are at the top of your iliac crest. And below that, you can come to the SI joint, and in between you can feel the sort of ripply, ribby part of your sacrum. So that's the area that we're looking at. And let's go down onto the floor and enjoy some movement. So I'm going to put the roll lengthwise. It'll be on my sacrum and along my spine going up. Sometimes with osteoporosis, coming down onto something like this isn't the easiest thing in the world, but usually with a little bit of help from your arm, you can get yourself into the place you want to be. Now, I did not get the roll exactly where I want it, and another option would be to come down without the roll there, lift up and stick the roll in. So the bottom of the roll is really pretty much near my tailbone. And just going to settle myself in. So the roll is going right along my spine. I'm just checking in with my rib cage. If I didn't feel like I had my head in neutral, I would double up my mat or put a towel underneath. So propping of your head is totally acceptable in this situation. So what we're going to do is lengthen our legs along the floor. And hopefully if you feel okay there, all that we're going to do is I'm pressing into my right heel and then my left heel. I'm not really focusing on whether I'm bending my knees or not, but I'm not trying to hyperextend my knees. Maybe you can see with my fingertips on those sticking out bones that as I alternate pressing into one heel versus the other, my pelvis sort of lifts and lowers, or another way to look at it is a little bit of side to side rocking. Then I'm going to let go of that. And I'm going to think now more about lengthening my right heel along the ground. This right hip point gets lower, and then I come back and lengthen the left and come back. So hopefully you can see how my hips are now shifting in a different plane. Don't ever want to bulge my belly while I do this. I'm not trying to put pressure into my pelvic floor. I'm really just pulling one leg and then pulling the other. Good. And now that I'm here, I'm just going to allow myself to rock side to side. Just a little rocking, a little massage. Yeah, just feeling really nice. Good. Then I'm going to bend my left leg and I'm going to bring it into tabletop. So this leg is firm and the heel is pressing into the ground, and I'm just going to see about keeping my pelvis to rib situation in neutral and just finding movement of my leg in the hip socket. So my pelvis isn't moving around. And the other side, I'm just playing a little bit here with the leg in the socket. And notice the difference from one side to the other. It's always interesting. And then we're just going to rock back and forth again. And maybe I rest my hands palm up, give my shoulders a break, and I just rock to side again. Good. And then drawing my heels close enough to me that I can push up and turn. So now I've got a crosswise roll, and I'm going to try to find that place on my sacrum that feels like I am in a good position to tuck and untuck. So I've got my hands on my ribs, and I'm just noticing if I can tuck and untuck without any major effort in my muscles, just finding that range of motion and knowing that I can do it safely right here on this really nice little roll. And then I'm going to settle for a moment and just breathe. And now I'm going to roll left to right. So I'm actually going to roll onto my glute muscle. So I'm pushing a little bit with my left foot. My left hip comes up right here. And then I go back the other way, pushing with my right foot. My knees move, my hips move. I'm more on my left bottom cheek, and my right bottom cheek has lifted. So it almost looks like windshield wipers, but it's not. And I'm just rolling along this log of a towel, feeling my sacrum, feeling my glute muscles when I get to the side. So just a little rolling back and forth. And now for the difference. I'm going to hold my pelvis steady and move my legs. So you'll notice I'm doing them separately. So my left leg is going to the left, and then my right leg is coming with it. Then my right leg goes to the right, and my left leg comes with it. And what I want to do is notice the difference in how much flexibility I have. Each of us probably has something different going on in one leg versus the other. And you'll notice, oh, this leg has less mobility. This hip has less mobility. And so that's the one we want to work on. And what I have noticed, I didn't really have much trouble with the rocking of my hips side to side. So that was this one. I felt like I was probably the same amount. I didn't feel any tugging in my low back when I went to one side versus the other. But if you did, just be aware of that and think about maybe making it smaller and then trying to move back into it in a way where you're not getting the same tucking. Tucking, I meant tightening. And then we looked at the legs moving independent of the pelvis, and maybe this is where you get some tugging and tightness one side or the other. And so whatever it is that is less flexible for you, whether it's less mobility of the leg in the hip socket, less flexibility of the hip, that's what you're going to just do a few extras. So I've noticed internally rotating my right leg without feeling a tugging feeling on the back of my pelvis is a little something for me to work on. And if I irritated it, what I might do is just do a little more rocking. I might go back to the lengthways roll and possibly rock here to just desensitize a little, feel good again. I might even lengthen a leg and the other leg and just move a little bit here, going back to the things we did in the beginning. And I might come back, and I'm doing this all rather quickly, but this is something you might do if you felt sensitized. And so I'm now going to go back to seeing if I feel a little less sensitive and can work on that part of the rotation that I'm feeling kind of sticky about. So this is my spot to work, and you all might have different spots than I do. And then we're just going to finish with some pelvic clap. So I've taught pelvic clap so many times, and here's one more way. I like to do it oftentimes on a ball, but I'm doing these circles on the roll, and it creates some room, and I'm now going in the reverse direction and just noticing if one direction feels a little more sticky today than the other. And you can go back and forth as many times as you want. So we're just looking to find a balance. And the whole idea here is we want to desensitize, and we also want to give an opportunity for more balance. The SI joint, if you have your pelvis and the SI joints, they have a little bit of movement, not a ton of movement, but that little bit of movement is part of the force transfer of walking. So when you're walking and there's that rebound of the energy from the earth, and that's not a woo-woo thing. It's really the ground reaction force, gravity, and the weight bearing that comes back up. The SI joints are really a force transfer spot. So if one is sticky, that does make a difference. And yes, you do feel it, and you're not imagining it. But what we can do is come to the ground and find other ways to work with our fascia, desensitize our system, give our system some feedback about the range of motion it really does have, and then get back up into a weight bearing position. And my last tip is when you do get back up into that weight bearing position, just start noticing how you stand. And you may find that you typically stand with more weight in one leg than the other and a little bit of a cocked pelvis. And it's that kind of thing. Also, another good example is this. This is how I like to sit. So what I need to do is focus on sitting this way more often, or not sitting either way, but sitting in like up on a bolster with my legs right out in front of me, because you're not encouraging balance in the SI joints if you habitually have one hip higher than the other. Makes sense, right? So that's my routine for the day, and I hope you try it out and go back to the previous 2 days and try all of them and find what works for you and create your own routine. Take care, and thanks a lot for joining me.